Oh man, Lady of Darkness. I read Lords of Darkness way back. Weird thing about it was, for most of the book, I felt kind of meh. I was ready to say, see you later, alligator. And then the ending of the book happened. It left on a cliffhanger. And y'all, I couldn't get it out of my head. I needed to know what happened next. And so I read Lady of Darkness. And this felt worth it. I might treat these as one book in terms of the full scope of storytelling. If you don't remember, there's this secret society of British nobility that is passed down to the kids, and this is the generation. There are 5 people or 5 families, and 4 of them are taken. You've got your last one. Harlow is the character that we follow, and there are the other 4 guys, Alaric, Theo, Gideon, and Sterling. It's not that important. The cliffhanger is resolved pretty well, and then we go into this next part of the story where they have to build this relationship. There's a lot of blood and gore in these stories, so if you're not interested in blood and gore and violence, this might not be for you. It is kind of dark romancy for me in that they basically bring her into the secret society and say she can't leave, so I guess we're officially there. It gets real violent, real fast. Harlow is kidnapped, and the 4 guys have to go save her, and then they bone. A lot. So much. Something that didn't really happen in the first book was the 4 guys exploring their sexuality. We meet them, and they talk about their experiences with kink and with their queerness. But in this book, it becomes one heck of a party, one heck of a 5-some, and that was probably the most enjoyable part for me. My only complaint with those scenes is spit does not replace lube. It doesn't. It's not gonna get the job done in the same way. Why can't we have some all around? If you're billionaires, can't you just run down to the corner shop and get some? Everyone's gonna enjoy it a lot more. Y'all, all I have highlighted in the second book is steamy moments. So if you read Lords of Darkness and you went, I wish there had been more steam, which I did. Amanda Richardson delivers on the promise of steam in this book. There is so much steam, so much steamy spice, so much steamy spicy smut. And I was all here for it, which is why I think in my brain I'm just going to combine these 2 books into one, because everything that I wanted, that anticipation from Lords of Darkness really was, it broke. It happened in Lady of Darkness. I was really happy with the steam and the intimacy of this book and the way that the story ended. I felt like that ending was well deserved for all 5 of them. Mwah. Kiss that girl. Continuing in the Meant to Be series, I read Kiss the Girl, which is the retelling of The Little Mermaid. I am really appreciating the separation from the direct story and more of the homages to the Disney movies that these books contain. That makes it so I can enjoy the story fully without waiting for those next plot points. There was a line about her feet feeling like she was walking on glass after she took off her heels, and that's an ode to the original Little Mermaid story. I appreciate those. This story has Ariel, who's actually Melody for most of this, her first name, and Eric. Melody is part of the Siren 7, this girl pop band from a TV show situation that she's been part of for the last 10 years. They're done. They're done with their tour. They're done with their shows. They are now free to live their life, except her dad says, I've got another thing for you. You're going to do something more for me. And she basically ends up running away with Eric while he goes on tour. She hides her identity. She's the merchandise person on tour. So she sells merch at a table outside while he and his band are on their first real big national tour. The chemistry between Eric and Ariel is really present. Both of them have made promises to separate people not to get involved with each other, even though their chemistry is mwah. But there's a lot of other stuff going along. The Ursula character and how that plays out was something very different than it was in the movie. Ursula is not the bad person in this movie. She is not the villain. And I loved that. Triton being the villain, the person that everyone's fighting against and you have to overcome, was an interesting twist for me. And I really enjoyed that. Like the rest of these meant to be novels, it is zero spice. There's very little in terms of that. They spend one night together and then everything falls apart, which is pretty normal. It doesn't feel YA, but it certainly doesn't feel drama-filled. These are enjoyable books. I have the last one. I'm gonna read it. And part of it is really just for these homages without having to feel so beholden to the movie that they're based off of. I was waiting a book and a half for this. I don't want to say that these books are worth the hype, but they feel pretty worth the hype to me. I read Reckless, which is the official book 2 after Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This was something that I could just put my whole face into and go with it. I like this world. I like these characters. I like their dynamic. The drama of this story is elevated in a way that feels really personal. In the first book, if you haven't read Powerless, sorry, spoilers. They're always spoilers. But the games of that were really life and death. This one, yes, there's a lot of life and death, but there was also so much personal, emotional stuff at stake. Pei is now on the run after having killed the king. Kai is the enforcer and has been sent to get her. And the absolute craziness of their cat and mouse. Who's going to capture who? How are they going to get there? And then their love for each other. It was so well written. I enjoyed this. It's YA. Like, it's definitely YA. It feels YA. The relationship is YA, though they do make out. They make out. Whew, thank goodness. I know. Who would have thought I'd be excited about making out? But because there's not even a kiss in the first one, this one felt, there is action and adventure and drama and plot twists. The only thing I really wanted was I wanted Mick from Powerful to make an appearance here. I was waiting for that because Powerful came out, that little novella. And if that character was being introduced, especially so close to the storyline, I wanted him to make an appearance now. I'm hoping that in Fearless, which is the book that comes out next year, he does. So that's where we're going to go with this. I am also not great with very big plot twists or reveals. So at the end of this story, when the plot twist happened, I did gasp out loud, and the people that I was around were concerned. There was genuine concern for me by these humans because of my reaction to this book. It makes me actually more excited to read the second book in Nisha J. Tooley's series because I had that same, I'm just delving face first into this with Trial of the Sun Queen that I did with Powerless, and I am hoping for another experience like that. This book is all over the place, and it's not that I don't think it should be. I really, really, really liked this book. If you're looking for something more adult, don't read this book. If you don't mind a YA situation, read this book. My biggest complaint, honestly, is that they're being released in hardcovers, and I want paperbacks. But I loved it. I really did. It just entertains me so much. Bagging the Blueliner might be the first in this series, but it is not the first in this world. And I have to say, go read the other ones. There was a lot of story missing in this that made me feel like some of the work of these relationships would have been done in the other stories. If you've read those, this is the last of that friend group. This is Hannah's story. Hannah is the daughter of this very well-respected hockey coach. There's a rule that you cannot date my daughter in the hockey team and in the league at large. Cal is on this team, and the moment that he met Hannah, he felt a spark, but has stayed away for 10 years, a really long time. In the course of the 10 years that from when they meet to the story, all the other books have happened. All these other books have happened, including a relationship between a former princess and one of Cal's teammates, which is why I felt like some things were missing in this story. I got a major ick factor because Hannah has this goal of dating and boning a hockey player. And that is something she pursues doggedly. I don't know why it had to be a hockey player. It could have been many other people. I understand that hockey is your life and you love it and you want to talk to someone in that world. You grew up in that world. But why does it have to be an actual hockey player? It just, every time she spoke about it, it gave me major ick Puck Bunny vibes, and I'm not about that. She basically ends up seducing Cal by showing up to his apartment in his jersey, which is catnip for athletes. Who knew? In every big romance now. I don't know, is this really a thing? Any athletes watch this video? Is this a thing? If someone shows up wearing your jersey, you just have to have them? I don't know if I believe that, but hey, everyone's got their thing. And they engage in this secret, sexy times, morphs into dating situationship. That's it. Cal, I think, is very underrated. He is a sweetheart. Cal is a very attentive partner. Yes, in the bedroom, but also outside of the bedroom. He's had this crush on Hannah for 10 years, and finally when they get together, he won't let her go, and he treats her really well. So while there's this weird situation, secret dating, sexy whatever, their relationship is very positive and very communicative. There are some great moments about communication that they have with one another, where they realize they haven't had it and where they realize they need to have it, and they're going to work on it in the future. They get along really well as people. They understand each other. They make similar jokes. They want similar things out of their life together. Why I actually read this book is I finally had seen enough of those little ads for it with snippets from their intimate moments, and I went, I need to know. I need to know what the deal with the Jacob's Ladder is about. So if you've never read a book with a Jacob's Ladder, welcome. Every time I see a Jacob's Ladder, it just entertains me. It is fun. It's a very steamy book. There's a lot of steam in this. And it's hockey. I don't know anything about hockey. I don't care to know anything about hockey. But I enjoy the books being written about hockey players and hockey life. So if that's your jam, if you're sports, if you're hockey, if you love reading about a Jacob's Ladder, this is going to be good for you. I know there are others in this specific series. I'd go back to the princess one. First. Why did I do that? I was looking for some MM action and I found it with Mafia Devil, which is an MM Mafia novella. It takes place in a world. I've never read any of the other books. I have just read this novella. It's about Theo and Nick. Nick is in the Russian mob. Theo is a clothing designer. He's an Italian clothing designer. They meet in Paris. They have chemistry. They hook up. They spend a few nights together in Paris. Most of this story takes place on Nick's yacht. What a life. What a wonderful life. They are super cute together. It's really fun to watch their dynamic and how it shifts and how it molds and how they tease each other and how they like each other. There's a lot of seriousness usually around Mafia, and this one felt fairly lighthearted for a Mafia romance. If you're looking for something with less Mafia and more romance, this is gonna be a good read for you. Because this takes place away from the drama of the Mafia. They're kind of isolated in this world on the yacht. We get to watch their dynamic away from the mishigas of the actual Mafia life. One of Theo's friends shows up with his, I believe, boyfriend, but also could just be friend, but an implied boyfriend. I'm pretty sure that is from the actual series. So they come in and I have no idea who they are, and it doesn't really matter because it's not about them, but their arrival does spark some controversy and some challenges. There's a third act breakup, but it makes sense and the reconciliation is really worth it. The spice is good, but for a novella, it felt more plot driven than spice driven, which might be what you're interested in. While there's definitely spice and intimacy, it felt like some of it was more fade to black style than actual explicit intimacy. It's not bad. It was fun. I enjoyed myself a lot. I feel kind of like I do with MM sports novellas, MM Mafia novellas come up against a lot of that machismo, that patriarchal BS that men have to deal with so often. So watching a novella where they fight against that and they move through that and they both decide what do they want in a partner, what do they want from each other, and what do they want out of their lives going forward was a really fun, quick read. If you like mafia stories, Mila might be a good fit for you. This novella is anything. There's a lot of plot and character driven stories rather than just spice. I don't know what her action sequences might be in terms of mafia, if that's part of what you love about that genre, because there wasn't really one here. But that's all right. A novella can't have everything, can it?